Welcome to our presentation on CureHunter, a disruptive technology for the generic drug industry. As most people in the pharmaceutical industry know, the approximate cost to bring a new drug to market is about $1.6 billion and generally takes between 12 and 15 years. It is an extremely costly and difficult process, and therefore new tools are needed in order to improve the drug discovery output. This presentation will explore how a generic drug manufacturer can dramatically improve their profitability through a breakthrough in drug repositioning discovery. Because of the complexity, 1, 2, or even 3 scientific disciplines would not be adequate to tackle this challenge. CureHunter combines natural language processing with network graph theory, artificial intelligence, computer science, and several predictive algorithms in order to arrive at their results. The scientists have programmed the computer to machine read 20 million clinical studies from the National Library of Medicine Medline database, parse them into a giant array, and turn this massive quantity of unstructured data into usable information that can be queried and interrogated. This program came about because a family of diverse and brilliant scientists had family members stricken with cancer on 7 different occasions. They felt with their combined intellect they should be able to do something that would impact in a very positive way the healthcare system. This unique combination of brilliance, scientific discipline, and heartfelt motivation has resulted in a system that is unmatched by any that has come before it in its predictive capabilities of discovering new targets for existing medications or starting at the disease and calculating new cures. The CureHunter engine was programmed to machine read the massive clinical trials database and capture and cross-reference information on all known drugs, diseases, therapeutic techniques, important biologic agents, genes, proteins, mechanisms of action, mechanisms of onset, and peer-reviewed clinical results, and put that into a giant array. The use of network graph theory and multiple statistical algorithms enable a scientist to duplicate 10,000 hours of research in 2 to 4 minutes of compute time. The current environment is very daunting for a pharmaceutical or biotech company, with the elapsed time to go from original discovery to commercialization of a new drug averaging between 8 to 12 years and costing about $1.6 billion. The odds are stacked against success, with only 1 in 4,000 compounds ever being utilized safely to treat disease in humans. On top of that, only 1 in 3 drugs that is commercialized ever recovers its original development costs. The blockbuster model in the pharmaceutical industry is being challenged and questioned. This next graph depicts the process, the cost per stage, the time per stage, and the cost of moving a drug through the entire process and bringing it to marketplace. Because of this, it is necessary for pharmaceutical companies to charge prices for these medications that often seem expensive in order for them to sustain the drug discovery, development, and delivery model. As you can see from this diagram, with the CureHunter discovery engine, we essentially skip all of the early parts of the drug discovery process. We're using the drug discovery machine to query the existing database of drugs that are currently proven to be safe for use in humans and are predicting which drugs can be effectively repositioned or retargeted to treat new diseases. Because we start with a universe of already proven safe drugs, it greatly reduces both the time and expense to bring these rediscovered drugs to marketplace. When one develops a quantum leap technology, there is generally a great deal of skepticism in the marketplace, especially since 100 teams of very bright and qualified scientists have come before you and yet have failed to achieve desired results. So how do we validate the predictive capabilities of the CureHunter discovery engine? Because they have created a giant array and they are able to manipulate and interrogate the data in a multitude of pathways, What they did to validate their predictive capabilities was to timestamp the database as of the year 2000 for all known diseases and their medications, and then run their predictive algorithms to determine what drugs they felt would be repositioned to fight additional diseases. In the year 2010, they ran their query again against all known drugs and diseases and compared that against their predictions. What they found is that they were able to successfully identify both the drug and disease in 30% of the cases where a new indication was found for an existing drug. This statistic does not mean that we predicted right only 30% of the time and wrong 70% of the time. It simply means that only 30% of the drugs that potentially could be repositioned were actually discovered during that time frame. The rest have yet to be discovered or published in any sort of clinical study. Remember, up until Cure Hunter, we have largely relied on serendipity or chance discovery to find new drugs. Think about aspirin. Mankind has discovered 10 different uses for aspirin, but it has taken us 89 years to do so. The Cure Hunter discovery engine can compress that process down to a couple of weeks. This graphic shows some of the companies that have suggested they have a computational drug discovery platform. Unfortunately, most of them, even with their teams of highly credentialed scientists, have been unable to consistently provide the desired results. The pharmaceutical industry has been very reticent to embrace drug repositioning for a couple of reasons. One is the lack of success from these teams of brilliant scientists, and secondly, because of a belief where the companies feel that they have great scientists, and if there was another use for their drug, they certainly would have discovered it themselves. A few well-known repositioned drugs are depicted on this slide. Probably the most famous is Viagra, which was originally developed for angina, and the test subjects found a different result. It has turned into a blockbuster drug for many years, producing $2 billion annually in revenue. With this kind of potential, why haven't the large pharma and biotech companies fully embraced drug repositioning? Answer: up until this point, drug repositioning was largely based on serendipity or an accidental discovery and was not a standard, repeatable, systematic process. Unfortunately, a serendipitous discovery is not a business model that any large pharmaceutical company will embrace. Cure Hunter has now changed that dynamic. This next slide is for illustration purposes only and is not based on actual Cure Hunter data. What we are trying to show here is that there are several medications that could be nearing patent cliff or off patent or abandoned in phase 2 or phase 3 of clinical trials that could be repositioned for one or several other diseases. The FDA and the U.S. Patent Office are very favorably disposed to granting new intellectual property rights to those companies that find new disease targets for existing drugs. Because the Cure Hunter discovery engine is based on the published clinical trials, by default, their best and most extensive database will be for the diseases that have had the most amount of money and the greatest amount of research dedicated to them. Such things as cancer, autoimmune diseases, chronic diseases, arthritis, and others will be prominently featured in this extensive database. The development of this highly complex yet very successful product began over 11 years ago and was primarily used in many pro bono cases for discovering new treatments for very complex diseases, and was used to provide researchers with a very powerful tool in a freemium type service. The industry is now discovering the value of the output of this tool. Because the data has already been machine read and is in a giant array, it can be queried and provide 10,000 hours worth of research in a matter of 2 minutes of compute time. Drug researchers are able to follow logical paths between mechanisms of action, genes, proteins, important biological agents, drugs, and diseases in order to find new uses for existing drugs or new treatments for difficult diseases. Drug discovery is just the tip of the iceberg of the power of this machine. companion diagnostics, drug safety, payer formulary analysis, personalized medicine, and drug portfolio analysis are just a few of the other uses. The algorithms have been validated by running the programs and comparing them to the universe of predicted drugs that were actually discovered. They have also had several successful discoveries of new disease applications for repositioned drugs working with healthcare providers in a pro bono environment. To further refine our analysis and leverage the power of the CureHunter engine, we follow the most promising connections based on the data to narrow our focus to the best drug candidates. Again, this refinement process is accomplished with minutes of compute time replacing 10,000 hours of research. We present this list to a disease subject matter expert for review and create a rank-ordered list of the best drugs for a disease or suggested new diseases for drugs already treating a primary indication. This process puts the drug discovery researcher years ahead of the normal drug discovery process prior to any new clinical work being performed. We're in discussions with generic drug manufacturers about a unique partnering model. We are basing that on the concept of the book Blue Ocean Strategy, where you do not make incremental changes to your business in order to compete. You make changes that completely shift the competitive landscape. With several major drugs coming off patent, which ones do you target to bring to market as a generic? Wouldn't it be a big advantage to have an analysis demonstrating potential additional uses for the drug prior to making the investment to bring it to market? With our model, we are suggesting the generic drug manufacturer partners with CureHunter to identify the drugs that have the highest probability to be repositioned to target new diseases. We develop that intellectual property a little bit further with human cell testing. We strike a royalty agreement for any new uses discovered from the process and pursue the further development and commercialization of the drug. The ninth inning head start we give our partners has already shaved hundreds of millions of dollars and years off the drug discovery process. A second very important use of the discovery engine is to run it against your current portfolio of compounds and identify potential new uses from your existing drug assets. To use the aspirin example, think of how much more value Bayer could have generated if they knew up front the 10 additional uses for aspirin when it was first introduced. With CureHunter and your portfolio, we can compress mankind's 89-year discovery process down to several weeks. The ideal buyer of a major pharma company's mature drug portfolio is a generic drug manufacturer. Several highly publicized mature drug portfolios have been shopped to the market. Currently, every potential buyer is analyzing a purchase using the same approach, basically tracking the shrinking cash flows as the portfolio runs off. What if the CureHunter discovery engine gave you an improved way of analyzing the portfolio, or better said, a way to find the hidden value in this portfolio? This would give you a huge advantage in analyzing the purchase and in multiplying your return on investment. We believe that the availability of any significant drug portfolios will dry up once a generic drug manufacturer successfully repositions several drugs from an acquired mature portfolio. Our partnership offers a unique arbitrage opportunity by compressing the serendipitous or accidental drug repositioning process that sometimes takes decades. The CureHunter discovery engine enables you to scientifically, systematically, and repeatedly discover new uses for existing drugs within weeks. Thanks for listening, and please contact Mid-Market Capital if you would like more information on this exciting technology from CureHunter. Thanks again.